got the Permaculture Woodshop. We give a discount to the support brigade. But anyway, several years ago when I was developing my property, I've got a pond and a swell and a spillway on the end of the swell. And the opposite side, I wanted a swell that was a 2% grade, so that the opposite side would just add water to the pond instead of go out. And I had my A-frame that I'd made, and I was thinking there's got to be a way to use this on the A-frame, the regular A-frame, to tell me where the 2% grade was. And so that's where this idea came from. James is a mechanical engineer, so he took it from the idea to this, and I'll let him explain it.
Okay, so your normal A-frame, you measure one thing, and that's contour. You just figure out what's perfectly level, which is really nice until you want to do something besides that one function. Which there's ways to mess around and put other marks, but then you gotta, it's a headache, and you gotta know how to actually set it up to do it right. So what we did is we developed this so it'll measure actually three things. The very first set of rows right here, it'll measure the vertical distance between the feet. So if you were right, let's say you're right there, that foot is 1 inch higher than that foot. So now all of a sudden it's not just level, you know exactly elevation changes. On top of that, you've got percent slope on the middle, and then you've got your construction grades, like a 2-to-1 slope, 4-to-1 slope. They use that a lot. Civil engineering, that happens all the time. You have to do 2-to-1 slopes on the backs of dams, all sorts of places. So you basically, we call it the gauge frame. So like a fuel gauge, it doesn't just tell you where you're at, it gives you a position on the whole spectrum. So it's super easy to use. Like an A-frame, you just set it down, and then you just look down the line, and right here, the wind will blow it a little bit, but we're about 3/4 of an inch higher than there. Now, if I'm doing this fast, what I'll do is I'll have a pocket full of just flags, and so the other thing is this was actually put on, we got to flip these legs later. These actually point down, so that way you know the exact position. So it's exactly 6 feet in between each leg. So then you also get a measurement distance. So you put one flag down there, you put another flag down there, and then you can pick it up, set it, and then you look at it, and it's not quite right. So the side that it's on, so right now it's pointing this side, that side's higher. Then all you do is you just kind of walk it over. Let's say I was close enough, you put another flag, plop it to here. Every 50 flags is 100 yards. So now all of a sudden it makes it easy. You know how long your swell is if you want to estimate for excavation. You're like, okay, we got 200 yards of swales. Now we know how we can guess an excavator can do a certain amount per minute or whatever. Now the other nice thing about this is you can go up, you can even measure up to 45-degree angles on it, right there. Now here's one of the other little advantages. Let's say you're coming along, you get to this point, you have an obstacle. And normally an A-frame, you kind of have to just guess where the point is on the other side. Let's say it's a big tree. Well with this, you come here, measure out to a spot, and right here, says that's a ½ inch lower. So then we come back and we find the spot that's a ½ inch higher, and we're back on contour. So then you can walk around objects. You can walk around buildings, trees, everything. So it kind of helps. That's one of those little tricks with this. You can get around some of those little annoying things with an A-frame. A-frames are super nice because they're super dirt cheap. You can build them with a rock and a string and sticks. But if you want to do a little bit more, this is awesome for it. Another nice thing is it's just got these butterfly wings, butterfly nuts. So you can take it apart. I'll show you a different little feature. They are a tight fit.
I've actually got one for the training blanket. And for those of you that are flying, I would
on the members.
Yeah, it's the member support brigade. So the other thing is you can bring the feet in. So now instead of measuring 6 feet, you measure 3 feet. So if you're in a smaller area and you don't want to have your legs spread out as far. The other thing that does is on this you've got 1 inch and ½ inch lines. When you bring them together, you got 1 inch, 1/4 inch, ½ inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch. So now all of a sudden your resolution just got finer. The slope's all the same. That never changed, but just because of similar triangles, you're now measuring in 1/4 inch increments around your property, which you may or may not want. I'll pop this.
I'm late to class. Did you start?
Get that lined up. So we'll just pop that in. So now we're measuring 3 foot distance, 1/4 inch increments, but all your slopes are all the same. For travel, you take it, flip your legs up, and you've got extra holes up here. So then you just take your bowl, put it back, and then it just became more compact. So you can throw it in the back of your car. And the pendulum actually has a hole on it too, so that way it'll lock up with this one over here. Yep, function stacking.
We don't want to cut into the time of the presenters, but if anybody in our downtime, if anybody has any more questions.
We don't have much going on right now.
Okay.
Now these,
Not till 4:30.
they're really
Yeah,
nice for
this
certain
is some break
applications.
time. Kind of, we're doing some cool stuff, learning some things. Y'all talk to John, talk to these guys, talk to me.
You can literally, yeah, and that's the other thing I was talking about. When you study permaculture, they say, well, don't do this beyond a certain percent slope, whatever. Well, now you can just set it there and say, okay, now I know what I have. You're not just guessing anymore. And then you can say, okay, am I pushing it, or am I far enough away from that line that it makes sense? That's another thing. Now, there are some advantages for some of the other machines. Like if all you care about is finding the level spot 200 yards down, a laser level is going to be a lot faster. Because then you could go every 20 feet or whatever, plop it down. But a laser level gets a lot harder you can't really do that. Then you have to bring in trigonometry and you have to know the distance between each of them. And if you want to do that, great. This has it all solved for you.
The other place that's really helpful, like any A-frame level, is wherever you got trees and stuff. 'Cause
Yep.
It's inevitable. Beep, beep, beep.
Or you could use your A-frame, you can use your laser to get there and then just walk it around
Yeah.
and then start again.
Yeah.
You guys have videos on your website explaining the
We
different
do.
functions?
Yep.
Or like how to?
Yeah, how to put it together.
Yeah.
The YouTube channel.
Well, they have a video of how to put it together now. I mean, it wasn't hard to figure out.
No.
We've got a YouTube channel. It's the same as the website, just on YouTube. So.
Okay, very
And
cool.
when you go to look at the products, the video's just right there with it. So anyways, I'll pull this out and put it back together.
Yeah, on their website now, they have all their products individually listed with descriptions.
Yep.
Instead of a big giant long list, put them all.
Is that because they like money?
Yeah.
When we
I'm
first
not going to tell you how they got it that way.
when we first started this, we presented it to Jack, and he sent me an email back, and he says, "Your website sucks ass." So we fixed it.
They were brand new. How much is it? It's $125 with free shipping, but since you're MSB, you get a 15% discount off of that. Yeah.
And you guys, could you tell them about all the other stuff you do?
We've got Warray beehives, Colorado top bar beehives, and we've got a beehive up here. It's our new prototype we've got here that just takes the same frames, the Langstroth frames.
Or we can build top bars for it, and you can treat it like a Warray.
And then I've got a gauge frame for the barter blanket. I've got a bat house for the barter blanket. We've got targets a shooting target system to make your own targets. We've got
Make your
some
own,
of
use
them.
them as templates or as stands, so that way you're not having
Water
to move
blankets.
in steel targets, real small, compact, throw them in your car.
We've got a chicken tractor. We've got a grow grid, just a raised bed thing that you can. It's got several different layers on it, and you can put it against
Configure
a
it.
wall. You can configure it differently, and we've got a grow wall that you can put on the side of a fence or the side of your house. The boxes come off individually, and everything we do, it's easy to assemble. We ship it flat, pull it apart, ship it flat, and it's easy to assemble. Once we get it, it's all with wedges, and just tap the wedges tight, and the boards all just come together real
And I
tight.
assume, unlike IKEA flat pack, it will actually stay together.
Yeah. But we cut it all out with our CNC routers that I designed and built from scratch.
I was about to ask you that question. So with all that, we moved into CNC for it?
That's
how we do it.
For
Yeah.
sure.
No, we don't cut any of it by hand.
Yeah, he designed the first CNC router. He called me up one day and says, I want to design a bigger one, so Dad paid for the prototype of the big one.
So Dad has a big one now.
So that's where
And I learned how to
that's
build a
why
big
I got
one.
it, and he says build another one. So we've got 2 machines that'll take at least a sheet of plywood, so we can knock out the stuff.
Do custom engraving, stuff like that. You'll see on our other beehive, we can do engraving on it. It's really easy. I've got AutoCAD and some other programs that allow me to just draw things up, cut it out, 3D machining, 3D contours. So I can pull data off of Google Earth, import it into other software, create a 3D model of it, get the satellite image, use the router to cut the terrain out of foam, so then you have a 3D, and then you print it off on plastic and vacuum form it to the top. So you can hold it and you can see all your contour lines, and now it's a real model. It's not just a satellite image, you're not looking at it on a computer, and then you can take dry erase markers, draw on over it, erase it off, change your plans.
Have you told Nick that yet?
You know,
Okay. I was gonna say.
sell that? Yeah.
Holy shit.
Everyone's custom. Every property.
Let's call it 10 acres with 200-foot elevation changes.
Depends on how big you want the model. So I just did one. It was 18 by 24, I think, and it was about a $400 model, somewhere in that range with shipping, stuff like that. Somewhere that's basically ballpark. Because every single these I design them, program them, then from then on it's just hit go. That one I have to do every one individually. And if you want to pay an engineering firm to do a 3D map of your property, yeah, you'll blow through that in the first hour of them playing with it.
How accurate is that?
As accurate as Google Earth can get. So another thing you got to realize, it's not going to be perfect, but when you take a 100-acre property and you squeeze it down to something like this, if you're off a few thousandths of an inch, that actually equates to feet in the real world. So your resolution's way down. So even if you're off a tiny bit, when you have a physical model, you're not going with precision instruments trying to measure everything anyways. It's more for the conceptual, here's how it is, we can actually feel it, use the sunlight to see how it plays around. I put the contour lines in the satellite imagery, so then you see how the contour lines flow on the property. So it's really good for customers, like idea in the conceptual things. And if you need something more accurate, then you have to actually get LiDAR data, you gotta go out there with surveyors, and then your software.
And something else to mention, we're all completely open source. If anybody has access to a maker's shop or something, we'll share our programs with you. You can make your own. So, and
Free of charge.
for that, we would appreciate some suggestions of future things that we can put together. So, the Permaculture Woodshop.
Yeah, so we got a Facebook page. I put in 2 beehives this spring using our beehives, and so I've got a whole video series showing me putting them in and their progression, and they've just done awesome. I put one of the hives I put in within 3 months. They had filled the entire thing up, and I pulled the backboard off, and the honeycomb was a little crooked, so it broke it off. So I ended up harvesting a gallon of honey, and they were only a 3-month-old hive. And
They've
since
got it
then,
all replaced.
yeah, and since then they've replaced all the hive, and they haven't completely filled it back up with honey to the point they had before, but it's close. But I'm in Idaho, so they're already starting to scale back, and I can tell they're scaling their hive down, so there's not as many bees for winter.
Do these ship from Idaho or Oklahoma? Where are you at, Idaho?
Over by Idaho Falls, area in the southeast part.
You need to get a GoPro
Yeah.
somewhere in Oklahoma. So these videos are easy to see.
About an hour east of Oklahoma, Tulsa.
Go to gmail.com, get my mailing address. It's mailed.
Anyway, thanks for your attention.
Yeah, man.
Any other questions, for sure.